Ever wondered what truly happens in the final moments of the year? While most of us are celebrating, some stories from New Year's Eve will make you want to keep the lights on long after the fireworks fade. Tonight we're re-diving into three of the most unsettling New Year's Eve mysteries that have never been solved. These tales are more than just urban legends. They're whispers from the darkest corners of the holiday season. So grab a warm drink, dim the lights, and prepare to question everything you thought you knew about the countdown to midnight. Our first story, The Last Countdown, takes us to Brooklyn, New York, on December 31st, 2018. Picture this: a vibrant New Year's party. Music thumping, people laughing, the energy electric. Among the crowd was 27-year-old Lucas Reed. He was just like everyone else, phone in hand, ready to capture the moment. At exactly 11:58 p.m., the classic countdown began. 10, 9, 8. The room was a sea of raised phones, recording the final seconds of the year, but at 11:59 p.m., as the crowd chanted, 2, 1, Lucas's expression changed. A notification popped up on his screen. It wasn't a friend's message or a social media alert. It was a message from himself. The text was short, chilling, and made no sense. Don't cheer. Look behind you. Witnesses who were near him said Lucas went pale. He slowly lowered his phone, his eyes fixed on the dark, empty hallway leading away from the party. The clock struck 12. Fireworks burst into the night sky, their colors reflecting in the apartment windows. The room exploded with cheers of Happy New Year. Everyone was hugging, celebrating, lost in the joy of a new beginning. Everyone, that is, except for Lucas. In the middle of all that noise and celebration, he collapsed. He didn't make a sound. He just fell. Paramedics arrived quickly, but it was too late. Lucas Reed was pronounced dead right there on the floor. The strangest part? The autopsy found nothing. No drugs, no alcohol poisoning, no pre-existing heart condition. He was perfectly healthy one moment and gone the next. The police examined his phone for clues. They found that single, terrifying notification he received from himself. And they found one more thing, a final outgoing message, sent from his phone at exactly 12 a.m. It simply read, "Too late." What did he see in that hallway? And who or what was he sending that final message to? So let me ask you, if you got a message like that during the countdown, would you still cheer? Tell me your thoughts in the comments. Now, let's travel across the Atlantic to a quiet suburb of Leeds, England, for our second story, New Year's Eve babysitting. This one happened more recently, in December 2020. A 19-year-old named Hannah Moore was babysitting for a family who had gone out to a New Year's party. They promised her they'd be back shortly after midnight. It was a standard babysitting job in a peaceful, safe neighborhood. By 11:40 p.m., the kids were sound asleep in their beds. The house was completely silent except for the faint, distant pop of early fireworks. Then Hannah heard it, footsteps coming from upstairs. Her heart pounded. She immediately checked the baby monitor, expecting to see one of the children awake. But on the grainy screen, both kids were sleeping peacefully, undisturbed. The footsteps had stopped. Shaken, she tried to convince herself it was just the house settling. 15 minutes passed. It was 11:55 p.m., just 5 minutes to midnight. Suddenly, a sharp knock echoed from the front door. Hannah's blood ran cold. Who would be knocking at this hour? She crept to the window and peered through the blinds. On the doorstep stood a man. He was wearing a silly, festive party hat and had a wide, unnatural smile plastered on his face. He wasn't saying anything. Instead, he was holding up a large cardboard sign. In messy, handwritten letters it read, "Let me in before midnight." Terror seized her. She immediately double-checked the locks on the door and ran to hide in a closet, her phone clutched in her hand, ready to call for help. She sat in the darkness, listening to the relentless knocking. Knock, knock. The sound seemed to sync with her own frantic heartbeat. Then, just as the distant church bells began to chime for midnight, the knocking stopped. Silence. Complete and utter silence. A while later, the police, alerted by a worried neighbor who saw the strange man, arrived at the house. They found the front door unlocked. Inside, the house was empty. The children were still asleep in their beds, completely unharmed. But Hannah Moore was gone. There were no signs of a struggle, no broken windows, nothing out of place. Except for one thing. Scrawled across the kitchen wall in bright red lipstick were 4 chilling words. "I made it in." Hannah was never seen again. What would you have done? Would you have opened the door? Our final story for tonight, The New Year Call, brings us to Toronto, Canada, on December 31st, 2022. Mark Alvarez was spending a quiet New Year's Eve at home alone. He wasn't in the mood for parties. At exactly 11:59 p.m., just 1 minute before midnight, his phone rang. The caller ID showed an unknown number. He hesitated for a second, then answered. "Hello," he said. The voice that replied sent a shiver down his spine. It was his own voice. Exactly like his, but filled with a panic he couldn't comprehend. The voice on the other end said, "Don't stay up, go to sleep." Right now, Mark was confused, maybe even a little amused. He thought it must be some kind of prank call, a friend using a voice-changing app. He laughed, but his laughter died in his throat when he heard a sound from the phone, the distinct, sharp sound of glass shattering. His own voice on the line then screamed, a raw, terrified sound. "He's here," and just like that, the call was cut off. The line went dead. Mark stood there, frozen, the phone still pressed to his ear. As the clock in his living room chimed 12 times, signaling the start of the new year, he heard another sound. This one wasn't from the phone. It was the sound of his own front door creaking open. Police were called to the scene later by frantic neighbors who heard screaming. They found Mark, physically unharmed, hiding in his bathroom, shaking uncontrollably. His living room looked like a hurricane had torn through it. Furniture was overturned, a window was smashed, but there was no sign of an intruder. Nothing had been stolen. After he calmed down, Mark checked his phone's call log, desperate to make sense of what happened. He found the call. It was logged as coming from his own number. But the date next to the call wasn't December 31st. It was dated January 1st, 2023, with the timestamp 12:03 a.m. The call he received in the old year was from his own future, just minutes away. These stories are a chilling reminder that the line between one year and the next can sometimes be thinner and darker than we imagine. What's the spookest New Year's legend from your country? Comment it down below, and maybe I'll feature it in a future video. Thank you for watching. If these stories gave you chills, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more unsettling tales. Stay safe and have a happy and hopefully uneventful new year.